Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Today's February 20th, 2016. Earlier today was the funeral service for Antonin Scalia, the Supreme Court Justice who passed away last Saturday, February 13th, 2016. The date he passed on is a date known as Lupercalia, an ancient Roman festival celebrating death. Lupercalia is on the 44th day of the year and has gematria of 44. Gematria is the practice of coding numbers into words. Something I have been educating about on my blog and this video channel since 2013 is the pattern of the number 44 being coded into major deaths, going back to Julius Caesar, who was said to have been assassinated in 44 BC, all the way up to the present. In the history of this nation, 44 is a number that has been coded onto major deaths. The first president to die in office died 4-4, April 4th, William Henry Harrison, 1 month into his term. The first president to be assassinated was Abraham Lincoln. The name Abraham has gematria of 44, as does the nickname Honest Abe. There have been many deaths in the history of this nation, from presidents to civil rights leaders. Both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. died on dates with major 44 connections. The last president to be assassinated in office was JFK, the 44th term president. If you've missed my prior work on Scalia, please check out this playlist. I will link it in the description, Antonin Scalia Death by the Numbers playlist. In this video, I talk about the connections to the date he died with his history on the court. I also expose other things, such as the predictive programming for his death, which was forecast in movies such as The Pelican Brief. Also TV shows such as Family Guy, Futurama, and The Simpsons. And even news stories going back a decade, where Dick Cheney shot his lawyer buddy in the face while quail hunting in Texas. Antonin Scalia died after quail hunting in Texas exactly 522 weeks after the Dick Cheney shooting incident. And the reason 522 is interesting is because the name Antonin, the word justice, the name Dick Cheney, and more all have gematria of 522. Dick Cheney is also from Wyoming, the 44th state. While this might sound crazy to many, what I am showing is that our history is scripted, and it is scripted by the numbers, and it is executed against us, history and news executed against us on a daily basis by the numbers. For example, Antonin Scalia is buried today, or his funeral service is today, the 51st day of the year. And the name Antonin Scalia the Small Way has gematria of 51, just like the word conspiracy. Today is February 20th, the 51st day of the year. His entire death and service has been by the numbers. Yesterday, Friday, February 19th, his body was on display at the Supreme Court. Notice the word used to describe his display. A word with gematria of 33, just like the name Antonin, just like the word justice. Also born on a date with a life lesson number of 33, March 11th, 1936. So anyhow, yesterday, his casket on display at the Supreme Court. It was a closed casket there yesterday, just like it was today. Yesterday was a date with 57 numerology, February 19th, 2016. And Supreme Court has gematria of 57. In an earlier video, I showed how the Washington Post article on his death was careful to mention the number 57. This is how Washington Post article is right after his death. 17 of first 25 people to sit on the Supreme Court died as acting justices. Of the first 57, the first half of all those who have been on the Supreme Court, 38 died while on the bench. Of the second 57, only 12 died while on the bench. They divided it into 57 to tell the history, and that's because the people who write these articles, they are Freemasons. They practice this language of gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words, and once you're aware of it, You see how it's put before our eyes all the time, almost in a taunting fashion. Yesterday was the 50th day of the year. America has 50 states. America equals 50 in gematria. The Supreme Court, the most important branch of government. Yesterday, CNN put up this tribute while it was going on. Thousands pay respects. Thousands pay respects has gematria of 79. Remember, Antonin Scalia just died at 79. And this number has been coded into a lot of predictive programming for his death. The Pelican Brief equals 79. The cartoons made forecasting his death equals 79. The word murder also equals 79. Now, it's possible that Antonin Scalia is really dead, but I don't think he is. And I think that's why we're seeing closed caskets draped in flags and, spiritual attire, if you will. There's no reason for him to have a closed casket. He passed away supposedly naturally in his sleep. What I think really goes on is the character Antonin Scalia dies. I suspect that there really is no Antonin Scalia. Antonin Scalia was a character created to fill the position that he filled on the Supreme Court. I just did a video on the death of Osama bin Laden showing what a hoax it was by the numbers. And I explained how there's no such thing as Osama bin Laden. There's no such thing as Barack Hussein Obama. These are characters, actor agents, men who take on a agent name to fulfill part of a agenda. That's what we, the people of this world, live in, an ongoing agenda, a Masonic, Zionist, Jesuit agenda that is waged against us by the numbers. They had Antonin Scalia's son do the service today. Doesn't that seem a little bit weird to have the son do the service of the father who died a week earlier? And if you watch the service, the son smiled many times. Perhaps he's strong in his faith and he's okay with the passing of his father. You could make that argument. But oftentimes the body language of these people who've lost loved ones doesn't make sense. In a moment, we'll look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s family interviewed Christmas of 68 right after his death. I want you to see how giddy these people look. Look like they're having a great time talking about the death of their family member. As I've shown before, Martin Luther King Jr.'s death, another death by the numbers, dead on April 4th, like the first president to die in office, and a whole lot more. The title for his son, Celebrant, a word with gematria of 35, just like Catholic. JFK was the 35th president, the only Catholic president. He was also the 44th term president, the kill number. They refer to it as a funeral mass, which has gematria of 57, like Supreme Court. It took place at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, having name gematria of 535. That's interesting to me because Catholic's 35. He was the first Roman Catholic on the bench. Religion has gematria of 53. Today's service began at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. Most important number in numerology. Closed casket, CC, Catholic Church, CC 33, Antonin 33, Justice 33. Today's date, the 51st day of the year, a date with 58 numerology, just like Freemasonry. The secret order that has ruled over this world for centuries. And again, service on the 51st day of the year, corresponding with conspiracy and the name Antonin Scalia. All right, so let's close out by watching part of this clip from 1968. It's Martin Luther King Jr.'s family being interviewed at Christmas time by CBS 60 Minutes in regards to how they're doing in the wake of the loss of Martin. And before we watch this clip, let's just do a quick gematria lesson in case you're new here. When you write out 44, it has a gematria of 144. When you write out April 4th, the date Martin Luther King Jr. died, the date the first president died in office, it also has this gematria of 144. And 44 and 144 show up around assassination all the time. JFK, the 44th term president, died on the first day of Sagittarius, the only astrological sign that has gematria of 144. His brother would die at 1:44 in the morning, and so much more. These numbers, all throughout history, coded to assassinations. Now let's just go back in time, see what was going on in 1968. Think about it, it's 2016, 48 years later. The point I'm trying to make is all throughout history, these characters, these shapers of society, if you will, from Scalia to Martin Luther King Jr., they are actor agents, and when their time's expired, I think the easiest way to get rid of the character is to fake the death. So here we go, check this out.
In April of this year, America, the world, was stunned by the killing of Dr. Martin Luther King.
And I just want to point out that this episode is airing December 24th, 1968. The numerology of this date is 123, just like Conspiracy the Big Way. Conspiracy the Big Way is 123, the Small Way 51. Numbers that get coded into these hoaxes often. To get 123, 12 plus 24 is 36, plus 19 more is 55, plus 68 is 123.
At Christmas time, 60 Minutes went to the King home in Atlanta, Georgia, to see how his family was faring. We visited last Saturday with Coretta King and her 4 children. Mrs. King, I wonder if you'd introduce your family to us.
This is Dexter Scott.
And how old are you, Dexter?
7.
Now, this fellow over here.
This is Martin Luther III. We call him Marty.
And how old are you, Marty?
I'm 11 years old.
I imagine, of course, that you bear your name with great pride, your father's name. But are there ever any difficulties because you are Martin Luther King?
Well, sometimes there are difficulties, but most of the times they aren't. Because, well, most of the times there aren't any difficulties, but sometimes there are.
What kind of thing?
Well, like sometimes people ask me my father's name, and sometimes they tease me about my name and things like that.
Mm-hmm. But mostly
most of the time nobody teases me anything.
Have you decided what you're going to do when you grow up?
I want to be a preacher like my father.
You do? Yeah. And this is Bunny.
Yes.
And what are you expecting for Christmas, Bunny?
A bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
A horn.
Mm-hmm.
A doll.
To your left is Yolanda Denise. We call her Yoki.
How old are you, Yoki?
I'm 13.
And where do you go to school, and what grade are you in?
I go to Grady High School, and I'm in the 9th grade.
Inasmuch as you're 13, you're the oldest one in the family, do you have special responsibilities?
Well, since I'm the oldest and all, I have to watch after Marty and Dexter and Bunny, and they aren't really that much trouble. And when Mother goes out of town, I have to look after them. And it's not really that much to do. They're kind of independent.
I must say they are a handsome and healthy and pretty happy-looking bunch of children. And Yoki especially. I imagine that she must have been a real consolation at the time of the tragedy.
Yes, she was, Mike. She was really so much of a consolation to me because of the way she accepted this with so much understanding and so much courage, and it was so reassuring to me. And she said to me, "Mommy, I'm not going to cry because my dad is not dead. He may be dead physically. And one day, I'm going to see him again."
I'll link the rest of this down in the description along with the playlist. Just trust your eyes. What we see on TV, it rarely ever adds up. You learn to apply the numerology and gematria, you'll see through the hoax.